Hello and good evening. Today it is Wednesday, December 2nd, 2020. And for this video today, I will be finally concluding my 4-part video series sharing my thoughts on the National Hockey League's brand spanking new reverse retro jerseys. So I've covered every division except for the division that I will be discussing in this video today, which is the Atlantic Division. So truth is, I wanted to get to this video sooner, but unfortunately I've had to work 8 of the past 9 days as I'm filming this, and guys, don't worry, I know I'm behind on not 1, but 2 weekly roundup videos, so I'm not sure what I'm gonna do about that, but let's just say once I get this video done, I'll try and figure something out. But anyways, without further ado, you guys, let's get into the final video in this series. So for this video, to start us off, is the Boston Bruins reverse retro jersey. Now, when I first saw the leak, I was actually very happy. A lot happier than I was thinking I would be. I was very pleasantly surprised by what I saw with the leak of this jersey. Bringing back the uniform design that they wore throughout the 70s, the 80s, and all the way through until the mid-1990s, where with a good lot of NHL teams, they got on the trend of doing some type of change to their uniforms, which Boston was one of the overwhelming majority of teams who, in my opinion at least, really downgraded their uniforms as the 1990s progressed, where with the exception of the New Jersey Devils, who upgraded their uniforms when they switched to their look that they had, their old red and black look that they had until they ruined their uniforms a few years ago. I still think New Jersey's new uniforms are awful. But, you know, Boston's uniforms from the mid-90s up until the Reebok era were not uniforms that I've ever liked. I've never liked those uniforms. I still don't. But then in 2007, the Bruins finally got it right, and they went back to a more traditional styled uniform with a bit of a modern twist. And it wasn't a modern twist that was a downgrade. It was a modern twist that actually looked really good. The black shoulder yoke, for example, on their away jersey, I've liked it since the moment it came out. Their home jersey always looks great, except I really do miss the old gold socks. The Boston Bruins home uniform without the gold socks just isn't right to me. But the thing about their current uniforms is that their logo is a lot more detailed. So when I first saw this leak, this simpler 80s, early to mid 90s logo, and 70s too. I gotta say, I like this better than their current logo. I like that it's simpler and it has less details. Now, I think their current logo is great too, but I think I like this one a bit more. I like that it's simpler. It really looks good. And Boston's decision to do a bright golden yellow reverse retro of those uniforms from the 80s, in my opinion, was a really nice choice. There's a couple of things I don't like about this uniform, though. Number one, I don't like the decision to bring back the bear that looks like it's high on illegal substances. I'm sorry, but there's a reason that logo is not liked. It was an ugly logo back in the day, and in my opinion, it still looks awful. And you know what I would have done? I would have taken the crest that they used on their 2016 Winter Classic sweater, and I would have put that on the shoulders instead, or even their current shoulder patch logo. Either one of those would have been a big upgrade in that regard. Another thing that really has pissed me off about this jersey since it was officially unveiled was that when the jersey was leaked, the cuffs of the arms were black. Why did Boston go with white cuffs on the arms? When you have white touching yellow, it doesn't work. You need something to break that up. And when you've got black on yellow, it works brilliantly. Why did Boston change that compared to the early mock leak that was shown before this was unveiled is beyond my comprehension. Big mistake. Those are two moves that, especially the cuffs of the arms being white instead of black. I guess the black cuffs were an early prototype, which they should have stuck with, in my personal opinion. But, you know, besides that, do I think the jersey looks good? Yes. Do I think it will look good on the ice? For the most part, I do. But I will say this, the black cuffs on the arms would have made this jersey that much better. It was a small thing that they should not have tweaked. They had it right the first time. And the shoulder patch, you know, if they were doing retro with a twist, this would have been a perfect time to get rid of the bear who looks like he's on drugs. Or I think some people call it the meth bear. There's a reason why. That was a bad logo, and you know what? Boston missed an opportunity to upgrade that design with a much nicer shoulder patch, with which their home and away jerseys certainly have compared to that logo there. Moving on is the Buffalo. We are going to move on to the Buffalo Sabres. So I noticed that the Buffalo Sabres have really been, at least in my opinion, in the past year, I feel they've done a really good job in terms of fan service. Last season, they gave us the 50th anniversary jersey and uniform, which in my opinion was actually a fairly decent uniform. And then on top of that, they announced, hey fans, we know you're not going to be happy with us not doing a royal blue throwback and giving you a new design instead. But what we're going to do is we're going to give you this design now, and we are going back to royal blue next season. And then now recently they've gone back to royal blue and gold, which Buffalo it's been a long time coming. And now they are even giving a bit of fan service in their 50th year of existence by creating a reverse retro jersey based off of their red alternate uniform that they brought in the late 90s, and they wore all the way up until the mid 2000s. And I must say, this crossed swords logo, I used to love the red alternate that Buffalo had as a kid. As an adult now, I'm not a fan of the design of the swords, but I really like that Buffalo brought back a style from that era for the reverse retro program, especially now that they've gone back to their best look full time, their original look with a modern twist or two, of course. The home uniform, though, I don't like the white mini stripes that they left on that uniform that they carried over from their now retired navy blue home jersey from last season. But overall, the return to royal blue and gold is a major upgrade. And I tip my hat to Buffalo for doing the 50th anniversary jersey, which in my opinion is actually, for the most part, pretty good. It was pretty good. Going back to royal blue and gold full time, and even in their 50th year as a franchise, they've given their fans that have been wanting something from the 90s a little bit of fan service too with this reverse retro jersey, which I tip my hat to the Sabres for doing. Now, for me personally, I don't care for that Buffalo word mark on the bottom. As a kid, I thought it was cool. As an adult, I don't like it at all. Another thing, though, I gotta be honest, I really do wish that after bringing out the 50th anniversary jersey last season, that they would have done something other than yet another white jersey. This is the third specialty white uniform that they've brought out in the past couple of years, or almost past few years. Why do I say past few years? Well, if you think about the 2018 Winter Classic, Buffalo brought out that beautiful white faux back sweater. Then last season, they brought out the 50th anniversary uniform, which was also really good. Not as good as the Winter Classic one, but it was quite good too. And now they've brought out this white one that's a reverse retro of their red alternate from the 90s and early to mid 2000s. And I wish that Buffalo would have made this jersey yellow instead of white. I mean, I think the white does look good here. But after this is now the third straight special uniform that the Sabres have worn that's white in the past almost 3 years now. I would have liked to have seen Buffalo change it up a little bit. And as I say that, though, do I think this jersey looks good for a reverse retro? I think it's not bad. And I think it's cool that Buffalo has elected to go with this design as the inspiration for this jersey you see here. So, and especially since it is still their 50th year, you know, I think that's also very nice fan service as well, to also give the fans something from the mid-90s through the 2000s. But I do wish it would have been bright athletic gold instead of white, just to change it up. But I must say, it looks good. And also note the 90s era Sabres logo is on the shoulders, and they even brought back the old font on the numbers and player names on the back, which I think was a good choice. Now, this is one of the biggest disappointments in all of the reverse retro program, the Detroit Red Wings. Now, I have to say this, folks, I cannot comprehend why the hell Detroit went with this. I mean, you've got gray striping on a white jersey base. I mean, what the hell was Detroit thinking here? I mean, and that gray is going to absolutely bleed into the white jersey base. It's going to look like a plain white practice jersey from a distance. I sure as hell, I can almost guarantee it, folks. What a terrible move. You know, why didn't they just keep the stripes? Why didn't they just take this design and take all the gray parts and make them red? A perfect flip of their home jersey. It would have been a simple flip over, and that's all they needed. But this gray and this is from our Stanley Cup winning era of the 90s. You know what? I don't care what your explanation is. If the jersey sucks, the jersey sucks. I mean, what the hell was Detroit thinking? You know, I'm going to say this too. Detroit had plenty of decent options they could have gone with. I mean, they could have gone with even a beige flip of their 2014 Winter Classic faux back jersey because it wasn't an actual throwback. They could have done that. They could have taken their 2009 Winter Classic sweater and they could have made a red version of it, which was never actually worn, as far as I can remember. The white Detroit Cougars jersey was the only style of that jersey that was actually ever worn by the Detroit Cougars. But there was a red flip of that uniform that was brought out for an alumni game. I believe it was for the Centennial Classic, not the Winter Classic from 2014. Why didn't Detroit just do that? Why didn't they just do that even? That would have looked great. Instead, they come up with this, and they sub out the red from they flip their home uniform, and instead of making the striping red, they made it gray, like the Stanley Cup. Oh, this is from our Stanley Cup run in the mid to late 90s. I don't give a damn about that run for your justification here. I'm sorry, but you know, if that's your reason to put gray accenting on a white jersey and give yourselves a crap half-assed jersey, I'm sorry. What a stupid decision this is. One of the worst reverse retro jerseys for sure. And, you know, when I think of the Detroit Red Wings, you know, they could have done the Detroit Cougars sweater, but in red. That would have been a big hit. And you know what else an easy thing they could have done too is they could have actually just done a 40s, 50s, and early 60s white throwback. I don't know why they didn't just do that. But of course, it has to be retro with a twist. So why didn't they just do a red flip of the Detroit Cougars throwback sweater? It would have been a huge hit. And it would have looked like an actual legitimate throwback uniform like what the Chicago Blackhawks have done. They're an original 6 team that got this reverse retro thing right. Detroit, in my opinion, absolutely not. And that 2014 Winter Classic uniform, they could have even done a reverse in white, and I think it would have looked good too. And they could have taken that Detroit word mark off while they were at it, and I think it would have looked fabulous. They could have even taken the 2017 Centennial Classic sweater and flipped it in red, and that would be much better. But what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to take a moment here to show you guys a concept from my viewer, Windy City Hockey, because To you, Nick, I got to say, when you showed me this concept recently, I was very impressed. You know, I think my friend Nick here, a.k.a. Windy City Hockey, has a hell of an idea. They could have done this. I mean, I look at this and I go, wow. If this was used on NHL ice by the Red Wings, this would be marvelous. In fact, if they really wanted to break tradition, they could even make it a third jersey for a while. I mean, personally, I don't think Detroit needs a third jersey. I'm of the belief, I guess I'm a bit old school in my views, that not every single NHL team needs more than 2 jerseys. But, you know, a uniform like that would be a third jersey for Detroit that I think would look really nice. And, you know, on the topic of Detroit, I'm going to throw this in too, because this is an idea I had a long time ago, back around 2014, that I still think would probably look really good. And this or Nick's concept, which personally I think Nick's concept is better than the one I'm about to show you, but, you know, something like that would have been marvelous. This is a design that I came up with years ago. I mean, even something like that as a reverse retro would have looked marvelous. I think Detroit absolutely defecated all over this reverse retro jersey with bad ideas. Just it's not even a mess. It's a simple design, but it's so bland. My God. Now moving on to Florida, I like that Florida has brought back an old style design, but using their new modern gold color instead of the athletic gold color, and the striping's a bit different from before. But I like that the big thing I like here is that Florida brought back their original crest instead of the new modernized one that looks more like a cat monster. This is still by far and away the best logo Florida has ever had, and one of the better logos in the NHL, in my opinion. You know, I don't care if it looks like an over-detailed 90s logo. This is a 90s logo that was masterfully done, in my opinion. Could it... I mean, is there always room for improvement in most cases? Yeah, but I don't think you really can get much better than this. I think this is a case of a team getting it right the first time. Now, with this whole reverse retro program, Florida didn't really have much in terms of options, so they got a bit creative here, and I think they did really good. I also think that I wouldn't mind seeing this jersey stick around as a third jersey, I'm not going to lie. But I actually think it would have been cool if Florida could have done their original uniforms, but maybe with different colors, perhaps teal or something. But I don't know. But I must say, Florida's jersey, I don't mind. Now, as for Montreal, I'm going to conclude with Montreal because I got a lot to talk about regarding the Canadiens. I covered these ones here. Let's see here. So, poor Lady Liberty has to now be on a really rather plain, mediocre design. What a shame. Now, moving on to the Ottawa Senators. Now, obviously, Ottawa has, for the most part, gone back to their early 90s original uniforms with some slight modernized twists. But what Ottawa has decided to do is they decided to do a red reverse retro of their original black sweater. So notice the waist stripe is actually a stripe rather than waist trim on the bottom. Well, the waist striping, doesn't run on the bottom of the jersey. It actually is a stripe that's a little bit above. So doing a reverse retro in red, in my opinion, was actually not a bad choice. Also notice that they're using this, I can't think of the word to describe this. Oh, the Laurel pattern instead of the original crest that said Ottawa Senators inside there. So I think that this red design does look all right, but there's a couple things. Number one, I actually think it would have looked better if the striping was white, or if they would have added some white accenting to the striping, or even went more of the 90s route where they maybe even put the bottom of the jersey in white and maybe even filled in the red part in between the black stripes in white instead of leaving it red. I mean, I tip my hat to Ottawa for paying homage to their original black jersey in this case, but the black on red without white is a little bit too monochromatic and a little bit too bland for me. And speaking of bland, I think that Ottawa's player names on the back of this jersey will likely, very, very highly likely, will be in white instead of black for legibility reasons. Because I know when Calgary first brought in their red jersey from the in time for the 03-04 season Stanley Cup run, at first I remember hearing that the player names were in black and they had to switch it to white so that announcers could actually read the players' names on their jerseys. So Ottawa's player names should be in white here. If they're not, I'm buying a lottery ticket. Let's just say that. But I think they should have made the numbers white with black trimmer. And for the arms, they could have easily made them white with red trim. And it would have added some much needed brightness to the jersey. I think it doesn't have enough white on the overall look to give it the extra color and brightness that I think it really sorely needed. But Ottawa's jersey, though, it could have been worse. It's not, to me, it's not great, but it's also not bad. Now, moving on to two teams here. You know what? Before I get into Tampa Bay, I want to really, really roast the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm sorry, folks, but this jersey is an absolute eyesore and an absolute train wreck. And, you know, I know that there are a lot of Leaf fans out there, but I'm sorry. I am not going to hold back. I think this design was an absolute train wreck. The gray on royal blue is an idea that works, but all this crisscrossing and making this new design that looks like it's a love child of their 67 blue jersey, their 70s and 80s blue jersey, basically they spliced their DNA and then got their 2000s, early to mid 2000s era blue jersey pregnant, and it gave birth to this thing. Hence the silver or gray accenting or whatever the hell you want to color or call it. Call that shade, whatever. But the 67 logo in blue on the blue jersey base, yuck. It's bad. Then you've got the Ballard Leaf silhouette on the shoulders, like the original design that this is based off of from 1970 through to 1992. And then I think the numbers on the back are blue. Yeah, let's take a moment here to... I want to end this with a bang. I want to do this. I want to conclude this series properly. Sorry that I didn't think about getting this... better pictures of this before I started the video, but you know, sometimes in the heat of the moment things come up, and when you're doing something you're like, wait, that's a good idea, I'm going to revisit that, I'm going to take a look at that. But here, oh, and the captaincy patch is blue too, because why not? But here, there's the... So you got two different Maple Leaf logos. It's a mess. I mean, the shoulder patch is fine. It's not a deal breaker to me, but yeah, no, my God, what an absolute mess that uniform is. And don't worry, guys, if you're, and to you viewers out there, it's only going to get worse. Well, obviously, beauty is in the eyes, or ugliness is in the eyes of the beholder in this case. But look, you got gray player names and you got blue on blue numbers. Oh, this looks like some type of bad choice you'd see in the NBA, or in some cases in Major League Baseball, like the Tampa Bay Rays, navy blue numbers on their navy blue jersey, or the LA Angels with red numbers on their red jersey. I think Tampa Bay's numbers on their jersey are navy blue. Correct me if I'm wrong. But numbers that are the same color as the jersey, oh God, what a mess. I mean, this uniform, in my opinion, is not pretty, and it bothers me because I've noticed the thing that bothers me about the Toronto Maple Leafs in terms of their uniforms is that even their new home and away jerseys, I like that they've brought in a more retro-styled Leaf logo, but I still don't get, with the entire uniform package, I still don't get that classic original six iconic vibe from their uniforms. Now, I know I sound like a total millennial using a term like vibe, but when I look at their current uniforms, I don't get that classic feel from them completely as much as I'd like. But speaking of uniforms and reverse retro for Toronto, you know, they had some ideas that would have looked so much better. And to you Leaf fans out there, I know I'm you know, I know I'm roasting the reverse retro uniform your team just unveiled quite a bit, but I'm sorry. I mean, if you like it, to each their own. But I'm sorry. I think the Toronto Maple Leafs have made a really piss poor judgment call. Terrible choice. Now, they could have easily done a white reverse retro of the Toronto Arena's sweater that they actually did wear in the 2017-18 season for only one game, which not only do I wish they would have used the Adidas rounded collar that we did end up seeing not too long after for the Winter Classic in that season, but also we only got to see it for one game. I think a white reverse retro of the Arena sweater that they wore a few years ago would have been absolutely outstanding. They could have even done, now this is an option that I would not be a big lover of, but they could have even done a green reverse retro of their St. Pat's throwback they've been thankfully wearing in recent years, which, for the record, I love that uniform. But another one. Remember Toronto's 2014 Winter Classic jersey? How it was inspired by their blue sweater worn between 1927 and 1934, which there were two different variations of the design where there was one version with the shoulder yoke and the other version without. And I think, according to NHLuniforms.com, the numbers on the back of the blue jersey in the early to mid 30s were actually blue. So I guess there's a bit of an historical precedence for it, but it doesn't mean you should do it. That's a case where it's a bad historical precedence. But you know, why didn't Toronto do a white flip of that uniform that they wore in the Winter Classic for the 2014 outdoor game against Detroit? I mean, how nice would that have been? You know, even their mid-30s white sweater, they could have done a reverse retro of that in blue. That would have looked good too. You know, they could have even taken their early 60s white sweater and done a blue flip of that with a white shoulder yoke. That's another idea that could have worked as well. You know, I gotta be honest. I am so disappointed with what the Maple Leafs have come up with. Because, personally, I think they could have done at least 100 times better. And it would have been relatively easy to do. Also, another thing. They could have even taken their 2017 Centennial Classic sweater and done a white flip of that. You know how nice that would have looked too? Man, Toronto really disappointed me. In my opinion, it might just be the worst reverse retro sweater jersey out of the entire league. It is definitely one of the worst for sure, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people probably aren't going to agree with me. But I'm sorry. I think that Toronto absolutely crapped the bed on this one. Now, as for the team on the left of them, or the jersey on the left, the same guys that have felt since 2011 that they should play Toronto Maple Leafs dress up, comes the Tampa Bay Lightning with a royal blue reverse retro of their Stanley Cup winning uniforms from the early to mid 2000s. Now, this right here, as soon as I saw it, bam, best jersey that the Tampa Bay Lightning have had since they won the Stanley Cup. And it's not even close. This jersey looks excellent. I love the colors. Yeah, does the logo is it the greatest logo ever made? No. But I will take it over their current lame uniforms any day of the week. They even brought back the victory stripes, which, you know, I know that Lightning fans like it and a lot of people like the victory stripes, but what I don't get about that, and it's still something I find mind-boggling to this day, is people complain about armpit piping, and pit stains, like on Buffalo's Reebok era uniforms from 2010 through to 2017. But a team like Tampa Bay did it, and it was great. But I must say, I don't dislike the victory stripes. I actually agree with people. I've had a change of heart where I do agree with people that it does add something to Tampa Bay's jerseys that nobody else has had. And you look at this jersey here, the colors work, and they actually have a decent looking jersey again. It's been too long, Tampa. I would even argue they should even consider going to this full time. I think I might even like this better than the black jersey from their Stanley Cup run that they actually lifted Lord Stanley's Cup with. This jersey is absolutely one of the best reverse retro jerseys for sure. Obviously, that's a matter of personal opinion, but that's mine, for anybody curious. So, the final team, so let's see here. So, I started off with Boston. I covered Buffalo. Then I covered Detroit and Florida. And then there was also Ottawa, and then Toronto and Tampa Bay. So to conclude this series, I'm now going to share my thoughts on the Montreal Canadiens reverse retro jersey. And notice that Montreal has completely broken away from tradition and will be wearing a royal blue flip of their iconic red sweater. But the main thing I like about this jersey is that the laces are gone. I actually think Montreal should just go with a basic Adidas collar, a fully colored in Adidas collar like the one you see here. That is the one element about this jersey that I like, especially. Now, here is my thoughts on this jersey. Now, from a completely impartial, non-biased point of view, well, obviously that's not true. That's a bias. But in terms of an impartial view, I'm not looking at anything that I'm about to get into after I say this. I do think that this blue flip of Montreal's red sweater, classic iconic red home sweater, looks good. I do think it looks good. But I'm sorry, folks. I don't think it's right for the Montreal Canadiens to be wearing a blue jersey. Think about it. Their arch nemesis throughout their history since the 20s has been the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've had this iconic rivalry with the Toronto Maple Leafs for basically damn near 100 years now. Their arch nemesis has always worn blue sweaters. Montreal has always worn red sweaters with blue and white accenting. The New York Rangers wear royal blue with red and white striping. Another original six team. You know, I understand I understand the mindset that, oh my goodness, this is so cool. The Montreal Canadiens are finally doing something new. Yeah, I get it. But I get that argument. I get that side of the coin. I hear you. But I'm sorry. I just don't think it's right after they're having their classic, iconic look for so damn long. Let's see. I'm actually going to try and be as historically correct as I can here. Because, I want to make sure that I do this video the best way I can. So, ever since they've brought in the very first variation of their classic, iconic red sweater in 1917, for over a century, Montreal has been known by their classic red sweater. And to do a blue flip of it, I get it. It's only going to be worn very sparingly. But in my opinion, this isn't right. I know there's going to be a lot of people that give me flack for saying this, but I do not think Montreal should wear this jersey at all. Sorry to be that guy, but, people complain about Lou Lamoriello and his decision to turn Adidas away and only allowing them to do a navy blue reverse retro of their away jersey. I'm sorry, folks. I know a lot of you younger viewers are not going to like me saying this, but I think the NHL could use the odd person. Professional sports in general could use the odd traditionalist like Lou Lamoriello in their ranks, because Montreal should not be wearing a blue jersey, in my opinion. It goes completely against what this franchise has been for over a century. I know that Montreal did have a blue throwback sweater that they did wear for their 100th anniversary. That was actually a part of the franchise's history. But, if they wanted to do something that's blue, they could have even done a white reverse retro of that, for example. You look at, say, for example, the New York Yankees in baseball, the classic pinstripes. Do you notice that they've never had an actual alternate jersey? I mean, I've said in the past that, I've always thought that, hey, maybe they could wear a basic navy blue jersey like their spring training jerseys to wear a few times a year. But I understand why you don't do that with a team like that. They have an established history. There's some things that, in my opinion, are sacred and sacrilegious and things you shouldn't do. I don't even like seeing the Yankees wearing these Players Weekend or these Mother's Day or Father's Day or whatever special event uniforms that Major League Baseball force feeds to their teams. You know, you look at teams that have heritage and history, and, you know, is this a nice jersey? Yes, but there's some things you don't do. Montreal doing a blue jersey, in my opinion, is one of them. It's just not right. I would argue it's even sacrilege. You know, I know it's only going to be worn sparingly, but, you know, Montreal doing a blue jersey after over 100 years of their classic red sweater, I'm sorry, folks. This, to me, is a big no-no. It looks good. I'll say that. I think it looks nice. But they shouldn't do it. And I know a lot of people are not going to agree with me. I know there's a lot of YouTubers, and you probably know who those YouTubers are. And I respect their opinions, but I completely disagree. This is not a good thing, in my opinion. There's some things that are sacred that you should not touch. And the Montreal Canadiens iconic sweaters are one of those things. So if you're saying, well, Roxilla, what the hell would they have done? Well, good question. I'll give you an answer. They could have done something as simple as doing a red jersey, but having the chest and arm striping white with blue trim instead of blue with white trim. Something small like that where, yeah, they take part, but they're not messing with their classic sweater. Where they're giving you something new, but they're not giving you something absolutely off the wall. They could have even done, for example, their 2016 Winter Classic sweater, but in red. That would have looked nice. They could have even done a throwback jersey with a white jersey like the one they wore in the 2000s as a special throwback, but done the striping in red instead of blue. Little things like that, and maybe used the retro logo that they had from their 2016 Winter Classic sweater. Something like that. You know, Montreal had options, in my opinion. They could have even taken their design from the mid-30s through the early 40s, which was the inspiration for their, all right, I guess, NHL 100 Classic uniform. I didn't think that was a great design, but they could have even done a red flip of that, even something that was historical. I mean, you know, taking their design and doing it in blue is their design, but recolored. But, you know, I think Montreal did a little bit too much. Now, I understand people's feelings on this. I get it. People are saying, well, Montreal, I'd love to see Montreal try something new. This would be great. Well, I'm sorry, but I disagree. I think there's some things that you do not mess with, and I think Montreal has made a really bad decision. You know, I'm sorry. There's some things that you don't do. And what really disappoints me a lot about this reverse retro program is that we have, let's see, Chicago did their reverse retro right. Boston's, I think, is going to look good. But then you have the Rangers, whose Lady Liberty jersey idea, you know, bringing back Liberty was all right. But what they did sucked. The jersey's too plain. But then you look at Montreal, you look at Toronto, and you look at Detroit. Detroit's jersey is bland as hell. It's as dull as a used pencil. You got the Toronto Maple Leafs, who they seem to not want to do they don't seem to want to completely perfect and have classic home and away uniforms, in my opinion. Even though their new jerseys are all right. I like the more retro-based logo. That's an improvement. But then you got Montreal, completely breaking away from history. Yes, I know it's only going to be used sparingly. But as I say, there are some things that are sacred, and there's some things that, in my opinion, you just should not do. I mean, is anything sacred anymore? I mean, I'm sorry. I think I've said it enough times already, but To me, Montreal doing a blue jersey, that's not a throwback, that's a new design. To me, it's a no-no. It's a big, giant no. No. Big, giant no. But anyways, as I say, I'm sure a good lot of viewers will disagree, and I get it. I get it. By the sounds of things, a lot of people seem to really like it, that Montreal's doing a blue jersey, but me, I am of the mindset that there are some things you just don't do. And Montreal getting a new blue jersey is one of those things. But anyways, folks, I know I've talked for a very long time, but I wanted to make sure I got this series done, and I wanted to make sure I shared all of my thoughts that I had. But for anybody who stuck around, I hope that this series was worth your time. If it wasn't, I understand my videos are really long, but I wanted to make sure that I shared all of my thoughts on all of the uniforms. And in this case, I really wanted to talk about my disappointment with Montreal doing a blue jersey. I'm sorry. It's not right. To me, it's just a quick cash grab just because, oh, we can change our colors around. Sorry. I think that the Montreal Canadiens should rescind and just sell it as a fashion jersey. That's it. But obviously, to each their own. Now, anyways, folks, I think I've talked way beyond long enough at this point. I hope you enjoyed the video if you did watch it. And until my next video, you guys, take care. And as I have always said, and always continue to say, bye for now.